Hello, I'm State Senator Rhonda Fields, and I am a survivor of gun violence. I lost my son in June of 2005. He was ambushed and murdered alongside his fiancée, Vivian Wolf. They had just graduated from Colorado State University with bachelor's degree. My son was due to be a witness in a key murder trial. The system did not protect him. They failed him, and he ended up losing his life alongside his bride-to-be. I can tell you that my family is devastated still to this day, losing the promise of his life and his future. And when I think about gun violence, it happens in so many forms, but it just doesn't impact the mom. It impacts the father. It impacts the sibling. It impacts the community. It touches everyone that knew them both. And it's time for us to kind of do something different. Now, recently, we've seen far too many mass shootings in schools, in grocery stores, in our churches. I'm from Colorado. We've had the Aurora Theater shooting. We also had a shooting at a Boulder grocery store. So we're very familiar, like many of you may be, as it relates to mass shootings. And I think it's time that we don't look away and turn a blind eye on what we're seeing. What we're seeing is that far too many of our teens and our children are dying. It may not be in a mass shooting, but it's killing our kids more so than you might see in a school situation, in our neighborhoods and in our streets. So I'm asking Congress to act on simple measures, measures that we were able to pass right here in Colorado. After the Aurora Theater shooting in 2013, I personally sponsored 4 bills which were passed into law in the current law right now in the state of Colorado. We have a limit on magazines. You can only have 15 in your chamber. So you can't buy and you can't have an automatic rifle that holds like 100 or 50 or 75 bullets. That's illegal. And you can't bring it in the state either. But because we don't have federal legislation, someone can go to Wyoming or to whatever state that doesn't have the same type of legislation, and they can purchase those kinds of weapons. There's no reason to have an assault rifle in our neighborhoods and on our streets. And we saw what happened in Texas. In Texas, as soon as that young man turned 18, he was able to buy 2 assault weapons. And how much ammunition he had, I understand it was like 600 bullets. There was no waiting period. Yeah, he was able to get through a background check, but there was probably nothing there to alarm him that he should not have a gun. Why can't we, Congress, have a waiting period? There has to be something wrong with a judgment from people who are selling this equipment that someone just turned 18. We're going to automatically give them the ability to purchase 2 assault weapons with the ammunition that they need. Come on now. That should have raised a red flag for someone. And what did he do? He goes into a school, killing innocent children in a classroom along with their teachers. Enough is enough already, Congress. I need you all to act because thoughts and prayers are not enough. We have the same situation here in Colorado. We passed legislation requiring universal background checks. which means you have to get a background check when it's a brand new gun, or if you're buying it from a private sale, or if you're going to a gun show. So in the state of Colorado, you have to have a background check at all of those touch points. But on the federal level, that's not taking place. The reason we were able to pass those common sense pieces of legislation in Colorado was because we had the political will. I know shortly after the Aurora theater shooting, I started talking about policy, and I was told it's not the time. It's not the time. I was told almost to sit on my hands. It's not the time. And I was somewhat not encouraged to do the work, because it was like, do you know how powerful the NRA is? I don't know if you can really stomach the political will that it's going to take to go after the NRA. But it's something about losing a child that gave me a sense, I'm not afraid of the NRA. I've already lost the most precious thing in my life. My son was me walking around this earth, and now he's gone. So what, I'm not going to be afraid of the NRA, and you shouldn't be afraid of the NRA. If we can do it in Colorado, and some states have done it as well, then we should be able to push some of this legislation to kind of stop the mass shootings that we're seeing across our nation. Now is the time. We saw very little movement after Sandy Hook, the Las Vegas concert shooting, the Pulse, Parkland. I mean, I can go on and on and on in reference to the carnage that we're seeing, where people are taking these assault weapons, which is somewhat of a common thread in all these shootings. They're using this style of weapon because they can kill as many people as possible in a short amount of time. And their goal is typically homicide and suicide. So the next generation is watching all of us. They're watching us in reference to, what are we going to do? We can't really tolerate anymore the suffering that so many parents are experiencing because someone who shouldn't have a gun uses a gun to kill somebody else. Surely we can come up with some common sense measures to make sure that we minimize and reduce the kind of trend that we're seeing now. I believe that we can end gun violence, but it's going to take the collective will of all of us to put the pressure on people that we've elected to do the right thing. Doing the right thing for our communities, doing the right things for our state, doing the right things for our nation. Now is the time, and I'm asking Congress to act now and join me and many other moms and dads and communities to protect our children over guns.